All right, here with Wayne Welton, Michigan High School Coaches Association Hall of Famer in 2003. Finished with 767 wins in 32 seasons at Chelsea High School, but inductee in the ABCA Hall of Fame this year. Came out of retirement, I guess, and was AD for briefly last year, and now you're doing a bunch of stuff for the Michigan High School Coaches Association. So, Wayne, thanks for jumping on with me.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thanks for having me.
Are you ever going to stop working?
No, I don't think so. You know, I'm a guy that likes to stay busy and stay active. I think it keeps me not just relevant, but healthier. And so, no, I'll stay working until I can't.
Yeah, that's a longevity piece. I do read a lot on longevity, and they do talk about that a lot, that people stay, maybe not involved in their profession, but usually it's within their profession. They'll stay involved in some capacity until they can't do it, and those are the people that live the longest. So I give you credit for that.
I appreciate it. And I've been blessed over this 47-year work career to work in some great places. And I tell people, and it's cliche-ish, I suppose, but I've really never worked a day of my life. The way I like to say it, Ryan, is I've never got up one time and didn't want to go to work. So not once. So
did you work for 3 different head coaches at Michigan in your time there?
just two, just
Two.
Rich and Eric Bakich.
Yeah, because that's when you and I first interacted when you got there.
Right.
So that's how you and I met. But everybody in that area knew you. So
I think that weekend was when your Western Illinois team came and beat us 2 out of 3 at Adrian College.
I put that in my notes. That might have been the coldest weekend I've ever coached.
That was Coach Bakich and I will look back on that weekend occasionally, and we're able to laugh a little bit now, but we weren't laughing then.
No, and you're just trying to get games in, and right. That's the unique thing I think with the baseball community is he called me and he was like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "I don't mind. We just need to get the games in." But I actually ended up turning it into like a home series for us because we would beat you guys to the field because we stayed closer and you guys were bussing over from Ann Arbor, and we ended up staying close to Adrian. So it ended up being basically a home series for us because you guys had to travel a little bit further. And there's so many fun stories about that weekend of just trying to make it work. Like the last day, because Adrian, shout out to Adrian for letting us play there, but they had played after us on Saturday, and so when we showed up at the ballpark on Sunday, the bullpen mounds were frozen. And so I had to call Eric and be like, "Hey, nobody's going to be able to get on these mounds." So we were pulling people out of the indoor facility. It was like professional wrestling where you would send guys down and you're trying to get them out of the facility to come out, but there's a lot of distractions. But, again, you're just trying to get games in. And
right. Huge tip of the cap to Craig Rainey at Adrian College for working with us. And, he's a Hall of Fame guy in his own right. So it was quite a weekend.
And that was a little bit of a switch for you coming over. You're on the high school side forever, and was it difficult for you having to work for somebody else again? And you hadn't had to do that for a long time.
Well, that's a great question. I would say no, just because of the quality of people I got to go work with and work for. And, when Rich Maloney, whose son Alex played for us at Chelsea, and I'd worked Rich's camps for the years he was at Michigan, called and said he had an opening. And I just stepped down at Chelsea, retired, and knew I wanted to work, didn't know doing what. And I think I told Rich no 3 times before he finally got me at breakfast, and he finally said yes. And we had an incredible year working together. And then Eric Bakich came in and called me one Saturday morning right after he was hired, and we had lunch. And the short story is Eric said, "You're in," and I said, "In for what?" Because I was just breaking down the roster for him. And so he said, "I need you on the staff. We'll figure it out later." So long story short, 9 years with Eric and 1 with Rich. Great guys, future Hall of Famers, both of them.
Yeah. Do you think your skill set, you've been in the game forever as a coach and athletic director, and you move into the ops position with Eric, with your skill set, that's probably a perfect fit for somebody, isn't it?
Well, it fit my skill set in that, I had been an AD for 23 years. So, and helping Eric manage budgets and manage people and the day-to-day details that aren't involved with coaching. I was, my goal was to just take things off Eric's plate. And, I always have considered myself a coach, and whether that's coaching coaches or coaching student athletes at high school or college level, that's how I've always viewed myself. And, to be on the field with Rich that one year as an assistant was a lot of fun, even though our season may not have been what we wanted. It was a great 10-year run at Michigan, and 33 at Chelsea, and I'd do them both again in a second.
Were there any differences working with high school kids and college kids?
The talent level is different, but the game, you teach the game. And I didn't find that, I heard Eric and Rich both say things differently, or the pitching coaches that, that I was around at Michigan, the incredible staffs that both Rich and Eric had. You learn different ways of saying things, but you're teaching the game of baseball and you're coaching kids and trying to help them be better people along the way. And so I would say no to that, other than the level of player for sure.
I mean, what has the state of Michigan meant to you?
Well, it's an incredible career I've had. The friendships made, Ryan, along the way, the people I've learned from and got to rub shoulders with has meant everything. And I know whatever I gave, either the High School Baseball Coaches Association or coaches along the way, I got back tenfold. Like I said, I've been a lucky guy to work in two incredible places, my hometown of Chelsea and then the University of Michigan. So it doesn't get much better than that.
It's a good crew. I spoke at the Michigan Clinic last year, so that's a great crew. I had a good time in Mount Pleasant with everybody. You can tell it's a tight-knit group that crew is in Michigan.
It's a really good group of people who are invested in the game for the right reasons. And
what was your first job growing up?
Well, I graduated from Central Michigan and played 1 year there out of high school. I was a 3-sport high school athlete at Chelsea and quarterback, and went and played for Dave Keilitz actually at CMU 1 year. And in my long-range plan in my own head, I wanted to be a landscape architect. So 1 year at Central, I transferred to Michigan and got into the natural resource program with the ultimate goal of being a landscape architect. And it was about 3 months in to that deal at Michigan, and I woke up one day and said, "What are you doing?" It was my first time away from being an athlete. I wasn't playing basketball or football or baseball, so I finished the year at Michigan, transferred back to Central, got my teaching degree. But to answer your question, in the transfer back and then, I had to sit out of Michigan, sit out coming back. So my playing career kind of, looking back at, all my choices over my whole life, I regret that one a little bit, but wish I'd have kept playing in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, my mentor, who I guess name was Joseph Thomas Ballister, was my freshman football coach in high school, actually, was teaching at Chelsea and called me one summer afternoon right after I graduated and said, Wayno, he called me, he said, I'm going back home. I just stepped down at Chelsea. You should apply. About an hour later, the athletic director and my head football coach called and said, "Hey, your interview's on Monday." So I ended up back home in Chelsea. That was the one and only real interview I've ever had. And spent 33 years at Chelsea and coached football and basketball. And all 33 years I was the head baseball coach, and my last 23 years as the athletic director as well.
Did the kids change much over the years?
I'd say no to that. I think everything but the kids has changed, but the kids, they just want you to coach them and care about them and love them and teach them. And what we tried to do at Chelsea over the years was, we assembled an incredible coaching staff of really good guys. And, I can remember how that all unfolded over the years, from me doing it by myself year one, getting the job 2 weeks before the season started, and trying to just make it work. And thought to myself afterwards, can't do this by myself. So we ended up assembling a really crew of around 6 guys most every year that love baseball, were great guys. And I always looked at it, coaches, if you can find the right people, you can teach them how to coach baseball. So that was our mission along the way. We had a motto of working hard and having fun, and I think sometimes we all miss the having fun piece. It needs to be fun, and I think all the other stuff that comes with working hard and having fun just kind of takes care of itself.
How did you handle accountability with them, with the kids?
It was really easy. I'm a man of few rules, and we just had great expectations, and we made it fun. I think the real answer for me to that is when kids want to be there, there aren't many issues. And so we worked hard, and there were a lot of hours on the practice fields, but I love practice. And I think the games are for the kids, and you do the work at practice, and we just tried to do everything at warp speed, and had fun and broke it down. And we always said that no one would outwork us, and along the way, no one would have more fun.
Who'd you lean on from a practice planning standpoint early on?
Well, that's a really good question. I would say to that, Ryan, that I went to every clinic I could go to. I picked the brains of great men like Ron Ostrike at Eastern Michigan, who was a great mentor. Had him for a grad class at Eastern. And then his partner, Roger Coriel, after that was great. And then just, getting involved with the Coaches Association was really critical for me as a young coach, to begin to hang around guys that had done it. And you could, sit in the back of the room and keep your mouth shut and your eyes open and just learn. And when I would go to a clinic, I'd write down every word coaches said, and you pick and choose what you like. And so many great clinicians over the years became part of what our program unfolded like at Chelsea.
So did you see the class that Coach Ostrike taught on sliding when he'd show up in his cleats?
Oh, yeah. Sure did. Yep. We had Coach Ostrike, like I said, for a grad class, and we got to the end of the summer course, and he said to all of us, he said, okay, you got 2 choices. You can write a 10-page paper and have it in here by Monday, or I'll meet you at the Roundtree Bar and Grill at 2:00 on Wednesday afternoon, and we'll just break it down. I said, I like that option. He was one all-time great person.
When did you feel like it was time to become an athletic director then?
It was February of 1989, and our superintendent walked down to the gym where I was teaching and said, Coach, he said, our current AD just resigned to take a position in another school district. Would you be interested in filling out the rest of the year? And in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, I'm a coach. I'm not going to not coach. I was still coaching football at the time. And so I said, sure, I'll finish out the rest of the year. And we agreed to talk about it after that. And I made it very clear that if he ever wanted an AD that wasn't also a head baseball coach, that he would have the job back and I could go back in the classroom. But so Joe Piasecki was our superintendent, and he was a great person. And so that's how it kind of unfolded, and we agreed, shook hands in the summer to keep it going. And I finished 23 great years as the AD and the head baseball coach at the same time.
Do we miss athletic directors that don't coach? I mean, we miss that a little bit, don't we? With
do.
athletic directors that used to coach.
I would say this, Ryan. I think I became a better coach because I was the AD. Yeah. I couldn't very well hold my staff accountable and not hold myself accountable. And whether that's your game day behavior or anything that we do, I truly believe I became a better baseball coach in general, because I was the athletic director as well.
Did you have many meetings with your other coaches, the other sports teams coaches? How often?
Oh, sure did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the most important thing an athletic director does is hire the coaches. If you get that right, then you can, learn about the vision that they have for their programs, and you can kind of stay out of their way until they need you. But get that wrong, and then the AD job is is a pretty tough thing. Your phone can ring a lot. But get that right. And, at Chelsea, I was fortunate. The longevity of our coaches there and the skill level of our coaches is off the charts. So it made the job much easier than some people haven't.
How'd you manage your time with dual jobs?
Yeah, we had two young kids at the time. My son Joe was just a year old when I became the AD, and my daughter Molly was 6. So they ended up standing alongside me at a lot of events and games and getting in the car. And there were times when you think, is that too much for them? But they loved it. And as a result, I did too. And we made it work. As I mentor 18 first-year ADs around the state of Michigan right now, part of our conversations are about how do you manage the time? How do you do it? And today's even different than when I first started with email and the different social media platforms that people can connect. And
it's instant access now. That's the big difference is everyone has access to everyone immediately. And, you have a hard time putting it away because somebody can get a hold of you immediately.
For sure. And I'm probably old school in that if somebody shoots me an email, I just pick the phone up and call them. I'd rather talk to them on the phone or meet them face to face or go have a cup of coffee. Or I think we miss a little bit of that in today's instant world that we're.
I mean, what would you like? Right now. What would you like to see going forward for high school athletics?
I think there has to be some kind of marriage between what happens in the high school and what happens away from the high school. If we just look at our game, baseball, there's so many places out there that have sprung up that are, whether it's a pitching, one-on-one pitching thing, or it's, I think the communication between the levels of our game is important. I remember when it first hit me, we had a sophomore right-handed pitcher that had just transferred to Chelsea from another school, and he was a good one. Ended up, pitching collegiately down the road, but he late in the year he was kind of wearing down, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was talking to our coaching staff about it, and finally one of them said, "Well, he's going over here twice a week to throw bullpens." And I said, "What?" And so immediately, the first thing I was, you get through being upset, and then you think, all right, he wants to be good. I got it. We want him to be good, but I got to know what he's doing because I can't train him and have the other person training him, and we don't know what each other's doing. So that was the first lesson for me in thinking that through. And my son's a pitching coach at Saline High School now. And we have this conversation all the time because they got guys that want to pitch at the next level. And today's way of thinking is more is better, right? So you go get help, or you pay for this, or you pay for that. And so I think somehow for me, in just looking at our game, we have to figure out a way to marry the two of them. The high school experience, which to me is still incredible, to wear that your hometown name on the front of your shirt and play for your community and with your buddies, versus the experience of going out and getting better in the summer and the off season. So those that, I don't know that I'm ever going to live long enough to solve that one. But again, it gets back to me, it's communication. So I keep telling my son, pick the phone up and find out who he's working with and call him so you guys can figure it out together. So
it's a community, deal there. It's still about player development, no matter how that gets done, but you also have to be cognizant of keeping players healthy too.
Yeah, yep. And the arm injuries that we see at all levels of baseball now are concerning to me. So that's just a small piece of it, of course, to be able to understand, if Joe's throwing kids bullpens twice a week, and the summer coach or the private entrepreneur who's doing the same thing, that's not healthy.
I was going to ask you if your kids stayed in athletics.
Yeah, my son is a teacher coach at Saline High School, which back in my day was Saline Chelsea was the rival. So for him to end up there was kind of ironic, but he's doing great things coaching football and baseball. And my daughter actually is a CPA. She did a stint with Under Armour for 8 years, and now she works for private software. But in her spare time, she has restructured their town's softball program from 20 kids to over 300 kids. And so occasionally I have to go out and run a clinic or a camp. And like Monday night, she said, "Hey, what are you doing Monday night? We got a coaches meeting. You want to jump on a Zoom?" So they've both stayed connected for sure. And they love athletics. So
When you jump on those Zoom calls, what do you relay into the coaches?
well, this one in particular is about a U12 summer team that they're trying to develop, and they have 22 kids, so they're trying to decide one team or two teams, and an A team and a B team, or well, how does that look, or it's do we cut them? And so my message to coaches, especially at the youth and high school level, has always been keep them all, coach them all, give them all the opportunity to wear Falston or Chelsea or Celine on the front of your shirt, and enjoy that part that comes with being on a team. I think sometimes in our world we've lost the value of just how important it is to be on a team, because we're on teams of all kinds through our life, whether that's a marriage or a family or it's a work group. We're an athletic team. You've got to figure out how to best survive and work inside a team. There's nothing better than being part of a great team. So my message to a Monday night would be keep them all and figure it out and go recruit some more.
Yes. So, yeah. Get as many as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you chase them out at 12, you don't ever get them back. Yeah. Or seldom get
Especially
them back.
This generation of kids.
Right. They'll go find another sport or another thing to do, which is great, but we love our game, so let's keep them playing as long as we can.
Who's been the best player to come out of Chelsea?
Well, I'd give you two answers to that. We've been surrounded by incredible athletes, guys who just bought in and worked really hard and loved it. Some of my best moments each day are hearing from those guys, whether it's a text or a call or it's, a Facebook post or something. But we had in the same class, our 91 state title team had two incredibly gifted players. One of them was a right-handed pitcher / first baseman by the name of Jake Rendell, who went to Michigan State and played in the Midland Redskins in the summer and was incredibly gifted, 6'4", gold glove guy who could really hit. Bounced around a little bit in college from Michigan State to Central Michigan, but the catcher on that team, his name is Adam Taylor. Adam now is the head baseball coach at Chelsea, came back and had 6 seasons in the minor leagues with the Indians after playing collegiately at Ferris State in New Mexico. And he's running the strength and conditioning programs now. He is the most elite receiver thrower I think I've ever been around. Really tough, hard-nosed, the right kind of guy, great leader, and doing great things running our program now. So those two guys on the same team, actually in the same class, pretty gifted players.
And those were the things about Rich's teams at Michigan, is they had good catching.
Yeah,
they had guys. Yep. Jeff Kunkel could absolutely throw. Chris Brissett. Yeah. That was the thing. Like, you knew when you're going to go play Michigan, they were going to have somebody that had an absolute hose behind the dish.
Yep. I would say, funny you say that. Probably some of the guys that have meant the most to me at Chelsea over the years have been catchers. Yeah. Just because the relationship you have with them. You're in mornings all off season and the whole regular season. That relationship, head coach to catcher, has always been pretty special.
But that position is servant leadership. I think they catchers do well in whatever they decide to when they're done playing, because they're used to it's servant leadership. If you want to be good back there, you're serving the entire pitching staff, the entire defense. Like, it just breeds servant leadership out of that position.
Yeah, and if you want to be good, you have to be good back there. The worst sound in baseball is a ball hitting that chain link fence behind the dish. There's nothing worse than that.
I always said if catchers are like umpires. If you know they're back there, that's not a good thing.
That's right. If you want to win a game, have a good IO and let your catchers throw some seeds a little bit, and that'll take care of the running game.
How long did you work with the Junior Olympics?
It was just that one. Well, I stayed in touch with Paul Seiler and the USA baseball guys for several years, but because I was the AD at the time and family was growing and still the head coach, just trying to balance everything out in my life, I had to be careful of how many times I said yes. But that summer of '95 with the Olympic Festival in Colorado Springs was, there were some great guys there. Doug Wabick, who we just lost. Yep. Coach Welton, let's go out tonight. No, Wobbs, not going downtown. They got to be on the field at 7:00 in the morning. But and Mario Baracci and so many really good baseball guys were around Paul Seiler and our whole crew that summer. Eric Campbell was at Air Force at the time and was our host. So
I went 1 year with my dad. I think it was in Joplin, Missouri. So my dad was coaching. I was young, so I was a little kid. Talk about tagging along with your coaching parent. I used to do that a lot with my dad. So whether it was events or he officiated high school football and college basketball. So when I was a little kid, I'd ride in the car with him while he went and officiated college basketball games. I'd sit there, I don't even know if you can do that anymore, but I would sit there during the game while he's officiating and then keep him awake on the ride back from Memphis or Louisville or wherever he was at.
Yep, so good, and it's great father-son time, and my son Joe and I have had many experiences like that one.
I mean, do you feel like communication is the key to being a great coach? Or athletic director? Is that the biggest key? Is communication?
Well, I would say if you get the coaching hires right, specifically the head coach of each sport. And at Chelsea we have 29 programs. We're running well over 100 coaches on that staff. But if you get the head coach right, and there was a time, and I was just sharing this with someone else this morning. If you get it wrong, it doesn't feel good, when you're the AD. And there was a time when I got one wrong. We were rushed from a time standpoint. I spent the better part of 3 years trying to mentor and help and support, and it just wasn't going to work. So, but communication is important, and to me, it's not an email. I despise email, other than a short, quick sentence. Hey, I'll meet you at 4:00 tomorrow afternoon. But to express yourself or try to really say a strong message in an email, to me, it's counterproductive. It can be misinterpreted in so many ways.
There's no context to it.
No, or it gets sent somewhere else, and it just. So I'm more of a pick the phone up. I liked going to practice and watch other coaches practice. It made me a better AD. It made me a better coach. In fact, I'd challenge our staff every year or two to go watch other people do their thing in a different sport, and go watch our head football coach or our head volleyball coach and learn, because we can all get better. But yeah, communication is really important, and I'm more of a sit down and work it out face to face, and I love just talking to coaches.
I mean, when you first got into coaching, did you lean on guys like Coach Ostrike and them when you got into it?
Yeah, like I said, I went to every clinic I could find, but Coach, I got the great pleasure of being around Dave Keilitz when I was young and watching Dave do his thing. I had theory of baseball from Dave Keilitz and Dean Creener. Dean Creener was, forgot more baseball than most of us will ever know. And he was such a good teacher. And even, as much as a few years ago, I would call him and talk about the left-handed pickoff move. That was Dean, one of Coach Greener's things. But yeah, just those guys. And I think the other thing, Coach, that I would say, I watched a lot of coaches, whether it was watching a game on TV. I became a coach watcher. Moby Benedict taught me this years ago when he was at Michigan, that he said told me a story that he went to the Tiger game the night before, and I said, oh yeah, why they won 5-3 or whatever. He goes, well, he said, I just go to a game now, and I just pick out one player to watch. So he told me that night he watched Eddie Brinkman, who was the Tiger shortstop. He said he watched him in the dugout, watched him between innings, watched him in the on deck, running to the field, off the field, between pitches. And I never forgot that. It was a tremendous lesson about just keeping your eyes open and learning. So over the years, I learned from watching high school coaches, college coaches, pro coaches just do their thing. And you learn about things you respect, admire, would like to be about, and some things that, I hope I never do that. There's a lot of ways to learn, but I think those were real lessons for me. And just, Coach Ballister was a tremendous mentor. I named my son after Coach. I mentioned him earlier. I always got to the point where, for me, anything I did, I never wanted to let him down. So that's kind of how I approached my whole career at Chelsea. I always wanted to make Chelsea proud of Chelsea. And that was our goal. It was never about wins or losses or championships. I really believe that those things truly take care of themselves if you do the rest of it right.
What are some pitfalls that you're seeing with athletic directors and coaches, maybe for things, I always call it inexpensive experience, to give some people some inexpensive experience to stay away from things?
A great question. Mark Ewell and I at the MHSA, and Mark's a great college umpire and has worked Omaha many times, and over the years we've developed pretty good friendship. Started talking about last year in Michigan alone, there were 171 first-year ADs. This year, 127 more first-year ADs out of 700 high schools sponsoring sports in Michigan. That's almost half turnaround. So we started the MHSAA, to their credit and to Mark's credit, first in the country, an AD mentoring program. So there's 7 of us retired athletic directors dividing up 127 of them. So I have 18. We're just trying to help them survive their first year on the job so they get to year 2 and get to year 3. But what happens, Coach, is that the AD gets thrown the keys and say, hey, good luck. And you think, oh, AD, that's fun. That's great. We'll get, schedule games and get officials and transportation. And no. I like to say my 2 German shepherds could do that. And the real work is working with coaches and developing programs and growing your program and getting a shared philosophy that everybody can buy into. And part of that for me at Chelsea was as many kids as possible should be on our teams. So if we have 18 softball uniforms, let's put somebody in them. And, coaches by and large want to kick back on that these days. They only want the 12 that can really play, and they don't want the phone calls. And well, if you do it right, you don't get the phone calls. I believe that. And so I think just getting somebody a mentor, giving somebody an idea. Even at Chelsea, we have Matt Cunningham, who's the first-year athletic director. Matt played baseball at Wayne State University in Michigan. He's an attorney by trade and has been a 3-time college AD in development at Wayne State, compliance at U of M Dearborn, and the AD at St. Xavier. First year at Chelsea, he's finding out that, 29 programs, 100 coaches, and now you're an assistant principal too, and you got all these other duties. It's not for everybody, but it's a lifestyle. If you live it and love it, you can have a great career in it. I do mine again in a second.
So when you're mentoring them, are you giving them a checklist? How are you handling that for them when you're mentoring?
Well, our program is designed that we're available to them. We're not giving them rule interpretations from the High School Athletic Association. That's what the athletic association's for. We're just trying to help them. It'll be mostly text or phone calls for me. I think I've made it clear that you can email me and I'll answer you and say I'll be available tomorrow all day. Just call me. Monday, I'm having all my group in at Chelsea, ironically, to have a half day face-to-face. And the first topic on our agenda is coaches. Hiring them, evaluating, mentoring them, supporting them. So we'll spend, a quick 45 minutes trying to give the first year AD a different way of looking at how you interact with your coaching staff. And so it's actually a fun job for me. I've really enjoyed it. Again, it's the first of its kind that the MHSA is working with. But for me, I also say, I try to stay as involved with baseball as I can. And my son is ready to be a head coach, and so when that's ready, I'm guessing that my career will go back in the dugout and shake my head at all the dumb things he just did, and I'll be able to tell him that.
Did you set goals for your coaches in your athletic department? Did you set goals for them?
I think the goals were to very simple, and then I'll say them again. Get kids out and get them on your teams and give them a great experience and work hard. Just work hard. Treat them right, and if there's something you're stuck with or struggling with, let's figure it out, because we can figure it out if we work together. Never ever, to any team I ever coached, I never talked about winning. I just never did. Other than to say, if you stay here, you'll play for a championship someday. So I just think it's a byproduct of doing everything right. And our superintendent who hired me had a plaque on his desk. It was a Mark Twain quote. It said, "Always do right. It'll astonish some and gratify the rest." So we just tried to, keep it simple and really work hard and be about the right stuff. And again, our goal was to make Chelsea proud of Chelsea.
Did you have a lengthy vetting process for your assistant coaches?
I did, but I pretty much let the head coaches do the preliminary work. But then before they closed the deal, then we'd all sit down. And again, I would say this: if you get the head coach right, you're in a pretty good spot. Just get that one right.
Is there anything in the game you haven't done that you would have liked to have done?
Eric Backus and I would sit in the office nights and jokingly laugh. And I said, "Coach, he would ask me stuff, and I'd just say, I haven't done your job." He goes, "You have to." But you always think the next level. You want to do something at the next level, and I'd still like to stay in it. I've had some long conversations with Robbie Britt, the new head coach at Eastern Michigan, and I've connected a little bit. And, so I don't look back at it like that. Having been at Michigan for 10 years, there's parts of Division I college sports I think are really unhealthy, especially if you have a young family and you're trying to balance your life and the pressures to win at a place like Michigan, for sure. They're real. And so when I look back at my career, I'm grateful for my 33 years at Chelsea, and I'm grateful for the 10 at Michigan too. After that Chelsea gig, I think sometimes in our work careers we don't know when the time is to leave and step away.
My dad always said, "Stay ahead of the wolves."
Yeah,
stay ahead of the wolves.
Yeah, there's a real skill in knowing when it's time. And there's a part of me even today that thinks I could still be at Chelsea and doing what I was doing, but there's also a part that I'm glad I experienced the 10 years at Michigan and got to meet guys like you along the way, because we all learn from each other, and the friendships in baseball, they're incredible. They really are.
We talk about fail forward moments on here. Is that you maybe not your playing career not working out, but leading you to coaching and being athletic director? Is that a fail forward moment for you?
It is. I had some chances to. My father passed away after my freshman year in high school, and my dad signed a contract with the Tigers and never reported, because all of a sudden my mom was pregnant and I was on the way, so he didn't report and ended up moving out to Chelsea to work for Chrysler Motor Company at Chrysler Proving Ground. So I always look back and wonder about that playing career. But when I evaluate the whole scheme of how it all unfolded, happy with the choices I made and the people I got to meet and who made my life pretty rich. So I tell kids that want to go into education or coaching that, for the most part, you'll have a rich life. It might not be reflected in your wallet or your bank account, but in relationships and friendships and things that matter the most, there's nothing better. Do it all again in a second. So,
man, what type of routines do you have that help you stay on top of your schedule? Because you're still really active. Do you have any morning or evening routines?
I just take the day as it comes. Usually,
Love it.
With this MHSAA thing, I never know who's going to have an issue or what that issue might be. my work with the Southeastern Conference is a joy because I get to work with 14 really good athletic directors and 14 principals at other meetings. So, and then I carved some time out to go golfing with a high school teammate and a longtime friend who actually played on 2 College World Series teams at Eastern Michigan. So he played second, I played short. We played alongside each other for about 40 years, and one level of baseball or another, and stayed great friends. So, and I'm looking. Actually, I'm excited to get back in the dugout at some point. Just when the right chance comes up and the right opportunity is there. So,
how's your golf game?
Well, this summer it's not bad. I played 3 times a week for the most part. The last round I had 5 birdies, so it was a good way to close out the year. The next day I had knee replacement surgery, so that was good.
When was your first ABCA convention?
Oh wow! I want to say Jerry Kindle was one of the main speakers.
I just gave him a shout out today. He's our video of the week, 2008 in Philly. I love our video library because it's kind of a historical record of the Titans we've had in the game. So I'm trying to dive deeper into our video library just to kind of honor the Titans that have come, and we miss Coach Kendall a lot.
It's a great question because I remember trying to develop my own philosophy on all parts of the game and listen to Jerry talk about hitting and stride on thin ice. I can remember that like he said it yesterday.
My high school coach said it all the time, stepping on thin ice.
And then Gordy Gillespie, back in those days, you couldn't get in there fast enough to listen to things he would say. No lovey-dovey baseball. I can still hear him saying it now. And so many other great clinicians over the years. So I'm trying to think back what year that might have been. It was early on. I want to say it was in Chicago too. Really good stuff.
I mean, what does it mean to you going into the ABCA Hall of Fame?
When Craig Kylitz called, and I don't know if I told you that story or not, I kept getting these calls. It said Greenville, and I thought, I don't know that number. So I'd just hang it up. So finally, one morning, it's like the 5th time in 2 days, 3 days, I'm walking it because I was working at Chelsea at the time, pinch hitting. And I said to my wife as I was walking out the door at like 8 o'clock, I said, this call keeps coming in here. So I answered it this time, and being a real smart aleck, I got 2 German Shepherds, and they're standing next to me. So I answered the phone, German Shepherd Kennels. I figured it was just another,
robo
company trying to sell something. And the voice started talking together, and I just hung it up. So I get in the office, and my son calls, said, Dad, there's a phone call that you have to take. And I said, well, does it happen to be from Greenville? He goes, I don't know. Just take the phone call. So the administrative assistant at Chelsea had gotten called too, and she said, are you talking to Joe about the phone call? I said, yeah. She goes, take the phone call. So I had to apologize to Craig for blowing the call off 5 times. But so that's how I found out about it. And say I was a little bit embarrassed it's probably good for me. But Ryan, to have this happen to me at this point in my life, it's nothing you ever do the work for. But I could not be more joyed, humbled, and excited about going into the Hall of Fame of the ABCA. I look at just this year's inductees, and I think I don't belong with those other 9 incredible guys. But I'm so thankful for it, and I'm excited about it. My entire family is. We don't do it for any of this stuff. Never have, and it's all about the kids and the people you do it alongside with. But I don't even know what to say.
Any other shout-outs you want to give?
Well, there's so many people in my career that have impacted me, and I've tried to learn from everybody, and I still do to this day. My mentor I mentioned, Coach Ballister, he became my father in a lot of ways after I lost my dad, and He was my freshman football coach and the head basketball coach at Chelsea, but he was my lifetime mentor. And his sons and I and his coach's wife and I are still close to this day. And the people at Chelsea, from our football coach who hired me, Bill Barris was the AD, and then of course my family. My wife Shelley has been incredibly supportive of all the things I continue to chase around, and my kids they're all in on it. And then to work with Rich Maloney and Eric Bakich at Michigan and their staffs, the staffs that Eric had at Michigan. I just had dinner with Sean Kenny this week and talked to Chris Fetter and Michael Berdar, Nick Schnabel, that whole crew of guys on Eric's staff. So many incredible people. And Rich and I are close, and talked to his son Alex, who's a big part of Rich's staff now at Ball State. And Alex was a freshman my last year at Chelsea, and so I've been blessed to be around guys. And then lastly, I'd say Ryan, my coaching staff at Chelsea. Like I said, I did it myself the first year, and then I bumped into a local guy who I didn't know at all, and his name was Akel Marshall. He ended up coaching all 33 years with us. Never paid a penny, never missed a day. I got enough guts to walk in the back of my neighborhood in Chelsea one day because I heard Fred Holsworth was in town, and Fred was a Hall of Fame athlete at Northville High School and 10-year big leaguer with the Tigers and Orioles and other teams. So I knocked on his door one Sunday and introduced myself, and actually handed him a sporting news that I had that had some little clip about Hank Aaron hitting a homer off of Fred. And Fred ended up coaching with us for 20 years. And Randy Breyer, my high school teammate who mentioned earlier. So many guys. Now Adam Taylor back coaching. So the staffs that we had at Chelsea, and I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but so many really good guys that are lifetime friends, and it's been a rich career in so many ways.
When did you realize the type of impact that you have on people as a coach?
You always want to think you're doing it right and you're doing it great. Our state title team in '91, and I thought we had 7 teams out of my 33 that could have won, were good enough to win, and one of them did. It's hard to win it all, to win your last game. It's just hard, and being part of that 2019 at Michigan that played for the national championship. I can remember an hour before the game, Eric and I are in the dugout standing next to each other, and we looked at each other at the same time, and the same words came up. Can you believe we're about ready to play for the national championship? But one of our former players at Michigan, Eric Jacobson, said, teams that win together stay together. And that 91 team of ours at Chelsea was a great example of that. Those guys, there's not a week goes by I don't hear from one of them, if not daily, and they stay together. And the words that they say about their experience at Chelsea, I will always treasure them. But I'd say that about all 33 of those teams and all 10 at Michigan. I love the players and stay connected with them. Just spent an hour on the phone with Michael Berdar yesterday, our shortstop at Michigan, who's now the hitting coach for the Tigers, and we're just breaking it down. And
that's the magic piece of teams that win championships, the chemistry piece that people from the outside that don't really know about athletics, have never been in a clubhouse or a dugout, they don't realize there's some magic and there's some work with those players to stay connected to each other. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's just those championship teams, they connect with each other as human beings, and it's all behind the scenes stuff that you never see. You see on the field, but you never see any of that stuff, how connected they are. And then you see them later on in life, same thing with the championship teams that I played on. You're still connected to them, and it was that brief time you spent together. It's amazing that connection still stays through the life journey afterwards.
Yeah. So many amazing people have made me a better person. I know that. So,
cool. Thanks for your time, Coach.
Coach, thanks so much.
Seeing you in Dallas.
I can't wait.
Yep.
Thanks so much.
I'm happy for you. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.